The one and only filthy Tom Lawlor joins us on the phone. Hi, Tom. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, Tom, let's back up a step. First of all, congratulations, I have to say, on all your indie wrestling success. Now, you know that this is not necessarily something that I consume, but I follow a lot of what you do. And also the other day, I subscribed to BN Sports. I saw you on BN Sports. I was like, my guy, Tom Lawlor, is blowing up out there. So I know you've had some recently difficult news, but congratulations on all your success, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Luke. You mentioned me having some difficult news lately, but I'm not choosing to look at it that way. I'm choosing to look at it as opening the door to many other opportunities that hopefully come my way. So I was with the UFC for a long time, and as you mentioned, I had some difficult news. I was let go 1 week ago today. Some pretty interesting, shocking news to me, at least. So.
All right, so for folks who may not know the story, you were with the UFC for many years. You had fought at middleweight. You had made a transition to light heavy. You had knocked out John Vellante. I believe you got a bonus for that. You had a fight, didn't go your way against Corey Anderson. And then there was a USADA suspension, something you have adamantly challenged. I believe they found Ostarine in your system. You tried to find out from maybe what supplement it was. I think they even tested your coffee, and you couldn't find it, so you were just kind of stuck in no man's land. You were set to be off suspension in October, I think, 10th of this year, so less than 2 months, and all of a sudden they just released you. Number one, did I get those details right? And number two, what is your guess about why they waited until now?
One, yeah, you got all the details right, so props to you. That's a very good job and synopsis of the situation. And two, I think it's just a combination of them getting rid of guys and my age and not having fought in a few years. It's unfortunate that the UFC has become such a large company that they don't look at things on an individualistic basis, but, that's part of the fight game, I guess. It's part of the entertainment business, and I just have to kind of take it and roll with it as it goes. I was shocked. I was kind of distraught because I had asked previously for my release when I was given the USADA suspension. And believe me, Luke, when I tell you this, I did not intentionally ingest any sort of Ostarine or any performance-enhancing drug. I'm on natural, and I've been tested many times since then, passed all of them. I am, however, happy to be out of the USADA testing pool and not have to let them know where I am at all times and wonder what's going on with that. Those of you who have read the Josh Barnett situation or kept abreast of that can kind of understand that not everything is fair, I guess, when it comes to USADA and the UFC.
Is USADA a force for good in MMA?
It is supposed to be, yes. Idealistically, it is. However, in execution, I think a lot of things are slipping through the cracks, and I think they've done a lot of things wrong. The banned substance list is basically just a list of, substances that they don't want to test, that they don't want to see what the effects are. And virtually anything gets put on that list. And when you have like a substance, we get emails. We've gotten emails from USADA. There's been alerts. There's been a ton of information out there about Ostarine being spiked in products. And, if it's that prevalent, maybe you should do some studies on it and see if it is worth, suspending people and ruining their lives for 2 years over.
When you got the news that you were initially suspended, what were you saying to yourself? Like, how am I going to make money? You obviously, developed quite a reputation and a career in the indie wrestling scene, but was that the plan right away? Was that already in motion when that suspension hit?
Well, I've got a indie wrestling habit that I need to support. Let me put it that way. That's a little more realistic. No, I was looking forward to fighting. I was in the process of asking for a fight, and it took me way off guard. I spent many sleepless nights. I spent nights just sitting in the backyard, staring into space, wondering how the hell this happened to me. And to be honest, the past 2 years, while I haven't been able to fight, it's been miserable for me. It's been hell. It sucks. And I feel like there's a monkey off my back. I feel free as a bird nowadays. So I'm a lot happier. I put myself through a lot of stress over the entire situation because I'm not somebody that was was ever going to go out there and intentionally cheat or try to game the system. I was trying to do the best with what I was given, and try to take advantage of hard work and dedication and let that pay off. And I was collateral damage along the way, and it's gonna really sting. It's gonna really, really hurt when Brock Lesnar goes back and fights for the title. It's gonna really, really hurt when John Jones gets a reduced suspension. But what can I do at this point?
Really, you don't believe that they should be allowed back? Well, like, how would you treat their re-entrance or not into the sport?
If you look at the banned substance list that USADA has, you're going to tell me that what was it that Brock Lesnar tested positive for? Clomiphene?
Clomiphene. Mm-hmm.
Which is a masking agent, correct? Or it's what you use when you're coming down off of a cycle.
Yeah, to like mitigate the negative effects, allegedly. But by itself, if you just took clomiphene, it is not performance enhancing. So that's why the suspension was not like 2 years. But it helps if you've used, it helps.
Is that worse or better? Is that more performance enhancing than Ostarine? Does Ostarine deserve a 2-year suspension compared to a 1-year suspension for that? I don't know what the hell is going on with John Jones and USADA, but I cannot wait to see the outcome and see him back headlining Madison Square Garden or something along those lines. Because then, it'll put things in perspective. It'll clarify a lot of things for people when it comes to the drug testing situation.
What would be the ideal drug testing scenario in your mind? If you could be king for a day, King Filthy Tom Lawlor, how would you arrange it inside MMA?
Well, they would need to, perfect case scenario, they would have to test every single product that gets put out there, and then draw conclusions based on that. Realistically, we know that's not going to happen. They just have to go by hearsay and whatnot. But, I think you have to draw the line. It either has to be zero tolerance policy to what they have outlined as bad, or it has to be just a Wild West and wide open. And one thing, and we need to be honest about this, is mixed martial arts and the UFC and all these other companies, they're not sport. Let's be realistic. The commissions are not there to uphold the ethics of sport. They're there to make money. And when you look at it as an entertainment sport, or, as an entertainment property, at what point do you say, maybe we should just get rid of all the testing and let these guys do whatever the hell they want? Are they really any different than stuntmen at this point?
Yeah, that's certainly one way to look at it. My views on this. I don't really want to interject them at the moment, but it's not a bad argument. I haven't heard the stuntman one. That's an interesting one as well. Now, when it comes
down to it, what are we as fighters? We're for the majority of us, we're willing to risk our body and our lives for a set of money. Those of us who do it as a profession, that's what we are. We're essentially stuntmen at the basic level.
Yeah, I think my issue on the whole thing about it is I don't have any skin in the game as a participant, which will always narrow and color my perspective. But it's like, I don't understand what people want exactly, right? You can't solve doping in literally any sport. There is no sport, not even cycling, where they have truly figured out a way to effectively eradicate it. Not in tennis, not in cycling, not in baseball, not in football, not in soccer, especially not in soccer, not in swimming, not in anything. And all of a sudden you think you can just figure it out in fighting because the consequences are more dire? You cannot. You cannot. It is a total farce for me from day one about it. And then in the meantime, you enact these draconian Richard Nixon level drug war policies, and then guys like you get hemmed up in it, and nobody really wins. I don't really quite understand what's happening here.
Yeah, it's a very valid point. And, honestly, the more that I think about it, the more that we talk about it, my idea shifts, because not only, all these guys that use and abuse, it's going to hurt them later on in life. So, when I'm still popping wood at 70 and these guys are all shrinked up, I'll be the one laughing at the end of the day.
That'll be a fun Instagram post in a few years. Hey, so I know that I saw this on social media, I recall. You still plan to fight. Like, you're not done at all. They've released you. What is your plan going forward?
I am more than willing to fight. I have heard some offers. There's been some management companies that have reached out to me as well. since the split with the UFC. So there's things on the table. I am looking forward to fighting. I would say to ask my training partners at Syndicate MMA if I still have anything left in the tank, but I don't want them to embarrass me publicly. That could hurt my contract negotiations. So I'll just say that I've been training for the past 2 years nonstop every single day, and I'm looking forward to making my return to mixed martial arts and continuing in the squared circle as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you intend on balancing that? Because you say it's a hobby, and I don't know the reality of it, but it seems to me more visible than it ever has been. Can you reasonably do both if your MMA career gets back on track?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's my goal at this point in time, is to continue doing both. I have a number of dates set up in the future with, the aforementioned MLW that you mentioned, which is on national TV. Also, if you don't get me in sports, you can catch them on YouTube. And, a variety of other independent companies, AIW in Cleveland, Black Label Pro in Chicago. There's a number of companies that I wrestled for across the U.S. that I'm going to continue to appear for. And also, as soon as that suspension's up, I'm looking forward to fighting. So.
Last thing about this before I let you go, because I know you're a busy guy, but I was just thinking about this. It's like, how do you look back on your time in the UFC? Because for sure, man, you had some great wins, some huge moments. You fought in 1 and 2 weight classes. You won some bonuses. But the thing is, I don't know that they ever knew what to do with you, right? Not everybody fits every corporate structure. And here you were like making a great name for yourself with all the stuff at the weigh-ins, and they took a lot of that away. And they brought in USADA, which we all know has these real problems of overreach. I certainly think it was successful, but there's been some really weird moments in between. You look back on your UFC career, what do you think about it?
Well, I don't look back on it with any ill will towards the UFC whatsoever. I think for that time in my life, it was probably what I needed to be doing and where I needed to be. And, previous to the UFC, it's not like I'm just a UFC fan. Now you get fighters. I talk to fighters in the gym who don't know who Sakuraba is. They don't know who some of the early fighters in the UFC were. And it blows my mind that, these eras have been forgotten and lost. And before I was in the UFC, before I was a UFC fan, or I can't say that actually, before I was in the UFC, I was an MMA fan. I'm a fan of the sport. I was a fan of rings. I was a fan of Pride. I was a fan of Pancrates. Virtually every, variation of mixed martial arts as a sport I've watched and I've loved. So now for me, and for those of you that weren't around as fans, previous to the Ultimate Fighter kind of taking off and Pride dying, the scene was a lot more vibrant across the world. And if you really pay attention to mixed martial arts over the past year or two, I've kind of felt that groundswell again, as technology makes things more available across different nations. You see other companies popping up, Ryzen in Japan, Road FC in Korea, KSW in Poland, EFC in South Africa. You have all these other promotions that add something different than what the UFC does. And a lot of times that is in the entertainment aspect and allowing guys to do entrances and allowing them to have a personality outside of the ring or the cage. And that is one of the aspects of MMA that I love. And really, it's not in the UFC anymore. So I'm more than happy to go ply my trade around the world. And that was one of the aspects that I kind of miss and that I loved about when I first fell in love with MMA. So.
Well, I'm sorry that this chapter had a weird and unusual ending, but it is ending, and another one will begin. Tom, thank you so much for your candor on today's show and for checking in with us. Can't wait to see what you do next.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, there he goes.